Welcome to another episode of Think and Grow Rich Mastermind Live. Hi, my name is Ann McNeil, and I am the Master Wealth Builder, helping you to build a stronger and better life and business with this philosophy of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Well, we have been discussing a principle per month, starting with the beginning of the year with desire, and then the next month, faith. Well, this month, the month of August, we're discussing persistence. And when you think about your persistence, think about an invisible guide guiding you through all of the trials and tribulations of life toward your desire. Well, Napoleon Hill tells us that persistence is the essential factor if you are going to transmute your desire into money. But how do you really do that without a burning desire for that which you say you want? But is it something that you really, really, really want? As we were preparing for the podcast today, we were just talking about the fact that if your desire is really not strong enough, why would you persist? Think about it for a moment. Have you ever claimed you wanted something, but then you didn't really do what was required to achieve it? Well, our special guest today, Miss Margaret Anglin, is an excellent example of desiring something, and the desire maybe waned a while, but then that desire caught fire and became a burning obsession, and she is achieving that with persistence. So we want to ask you the questions. What is it that you are desiring that you have not yet made a decision to persist until you succeed with a spirit of excellence? Well, speaking of a spirit of excellence, let me introduce our co-host today, none other than the man of excellence, if you will, Mr. Galen Bingham. Good morning, Galen. How are you this morning?
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much. I am always excited to be able to spend some time with you, Miss Ann, and with viewers and listeners as we talk about thinking we're rich. And this chapter in particular on persistence is incredibly important because persistence is really the fuel to making all this work. And I continue to be amazed at how the more times I read this book, the more the principles come alive. And just this morning, I was going through and there's a passage on page 167 that says that those of us whose desires are persistently applied, that's when defeat is finally changed into victory. And so just that phrase of a desire being persistently applied so many times, and I'll talk about myself, I'll think of desire as something that you have to check the box. It's one of the early steps in the process. Yeah, I got a desire for something, check. Let's move on to the other steps. But what Napoleon Hill talks about is that desire has to be persistently applied in order for it to change any situation into victory. And then he goes on to say that most of us of existing is the silent but irresistible power which comes to the rescue of those who fight on in the face of discouragement. So just this idea of not checking the box, Yeah, I've got something that I desire, but persistently applying that desire in order to achieve success. And I can't think of a better guest to tell us what that is like in a real tangible way than our guest today, because not only has she gone through and taken one of the toughest tests that's out there, she persistently fought through making it a reality. So I can't wait to hear from our guest.
Well, let's bring on our special guests. And, we say that every Saturday that all of our guests are special. But I'm going to put a special in front of this particular guest. Good morning, Margaret Anglin. How are you this morning?
Good morning. Good morning. I am doing fabulous in Florida.
Well, listen, Margaret Anglin is the president uh, of Mr. Wireman, and I tell her all the time she is Mrs. Wireman of the Mr. Wireman Electric. And so, Margaret, if you can just share a little bit about yourself, we're going to go to Galen, and then we're going to talk about the 13 principles, and then we're going to come back and talk about how do you develop persistence. But before we do that, we do want to give a shout out to all of you that's listening in, especially those of you who are live with us. Jason Murray, Renette, Doretha, Aida Smith, and so many others. Please remember, everybody, please comment, like, and share the podcast. Remember to subscribe, and also put your questions in the chat, put your comments in the chat, and we will engage with you. And also, if you have a question for Margaret, yes, put it in the chat also. But Margaret, if you can share a little bit about, yes, go ahead, Caitlin.
I want to give our viewers a challenge because this is an active conversation. They're part of this mastermind too. I want to give everyone a challenge to contact at least two people that you believe needs to be a part of this conversation in a very tangible way, and contact two people and tell them that they need to subscribe to this channel on YouTube so that they can be a part of this conversation. So before the end of this hour, put in the chat, yes, I've contacted my two people. Once you've contacted two people, to let them know that they need to be a part of this conversation. So let's make this thing happen.
All right.
Yeah, we're gonna drop the chat. We're gonna drop the link in the chat. Victoria, if you could help us with that, just drop that link for the YouTube in the chat. Then that way, those who are listening in don't have to search for it. You can just copy and paste it on your Facebook, all your social media, tag your friends, and ask them to join this phenomenal guest this morning. Good morning, Margaret. How'd you get here?
Good morning again. Wow. My journey here was first, let me say it was slow because of disobedience. It wasn't that I wasn't told what to do, it was that I was resistant doing it. So, for me, my name again is Margaret Anglin, and I am the owner, co-owner, I should say, with my husband. We own an electrical contracting business, and I kind of like got drafted into this out of necessity and out of need. But I just hang in there and just played with it um, until my husband got sick. So now I had to change my focus. And within that focus, now I had to decide, was I going to go, shut it down, walk away, and try to figure out something else in life, or stick with what I knew and put a spin on it? Um, for me, I was introduced to this mastermind by, of course, none other than our fearless leader, Miss Ann McNeil. Um, but I must say, it wasn't an easy task for her to get me to do it, um, because when she first uh, gave me these, steps of which I should follow, for me, I was like, one, first and foremost, I'm not getting up early. Secondly, I'm not doing all this reading. Third, I don't see it. I did not believe in it at first. So, for me, it was not an easy road getting here. But boy, when I got hold of it, and I'm going to say that again, because she also says to me, oftentimes when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I don't let that statement get out of my mind at any point in time, especially when I'm trying to encourage someone to come on board, get the book, do all this, the hard work that it takes. I always remember my backdrop. So for me, I don't ever give up on trying to encourage someone to stick to it. And it's just ironic that, the topic that we're discussing this morning is persistent, because while you're persistent in you also have to be persistent in taking somebody else along the journey with you. So, here I am this morning, only because somebody else was persistent about helping me get here.
Oh, what a place to put a pin in that and go to Galen and take a look at how these 13 principles connect to persistence. Margaret, this is going to be a phenomenal podcast because Galen says it all the time after the fact. Wow, it's always great when we have guests on that live the book, that know the book. And this is going to be one of those shows. So Galen, if you would share with us the 13 principles and we'll dig into this subject.
Yeah, so as Margaret was sharing, one of the things that we come to realize is that if you read the book enough, eventually the book starts to read you, and that's quoting Ms. Ann McNeil. And it's just the fact that this is a total philosophy, and it is just captivating how everything works together. So one of the things I like to encourage everyone to do while they listen to or watch this video is think about where persistence fits in this overall process and how everything sits on top of desire. You can't persistently apply your desire if you don't have a desire. So everything starts with desire, but once you determine that thing that you really, 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 really want, then all of these other steps come into play in order to make that thing a reality. So let's take a listen, and we'll see you on the other side.
Number 1 is desire. Napoleon Hill said that everything starts with a burning desire, a compelling reason for doing what it is we do. Step 2 is faith, having belief in our ability to attain that which we desire. Step 3 is what we call autosuggestion. Autosuggestion simply means being very intentional about the things that we are pouring into our thoughts, into our brains, and into our consciousness. Our brains, our minds will receive everything automatically, but we have to work extra hard to make sure that the positive things are what we are feeding ourselves, because those positive thoughts are going to turn into positive actions. Step number 4 is specialized knowledge. No one person knows everything, even about whatever their particular area of expertise might be. And the value of the mastermind principle is using the specialized knowledge of other people. Step number 5 is imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything starts with our imagination and our thoughts, the burning desire to transform those thoughts into our reality. In order to do that, we have to take a look at step 6, which is organized planning. That is how we crystallize our desire into action, organizing ourselves. Having the thought and not acting on the thought isn't going to get us anywhere. We have the thought, we go through the organized planning to transform that thought into action. Step number 7 is decision. What Napoleon Hill said is the mastery of procrastination. Napoleon Hill said that the antidote to procrastination is simply to make a decision and then move on that decision. Step 8 is persistence. We have to have a sustained effort which is induced by our faith in order to achieve our goals. One of Napoleon Hill's books I love, even the title, 3 Feet from Gold. Those people who became rich during the gold rush in the Wild Wild West days didn't do that because they were necessarily smarter or had better information than anyone else. It's because they stayed just a little bit longer. Sometimes people left when they were just literally 3 feet from gold. So hanging in there, being persistent, is step number 8. Step number 9, the power of the mastermind, the driving force. None of us can accomplish anything on our own. Everybody, I don't care who you are, from the most prominent person to the person who might be considered the lowest on the totem pole, everybody has someone who helped them get to where they are. And the power of the mastermind is being able to use those influences around us, use the thoughts, use the knowledge, use the exploration of other people to help us in achieving our goal. Step number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. This title can be a little confusing, but essentially what the mystery of sex transmutation means is that we oftentimes in our society think of sex as being purely physical. It is absolutely physical, but what Napoleon Hill teaches us is that sex also has an emotional element, and that sex is the strongest of our desires. That if we can take our sexual energy, transform that into positive, creative influences, it can propel us to new heights. And so we spend quite a bit of time talking about the mystery of step 10, which is sex transmutation. Step number 11 is the subconscious mind, which Napoleon Hill tells us is the connecting leap between our human mind and the infinite intelligence, the source of all thought, the source of all creativity. Conscious mind, we spent some time talking about how we use that through the influence of autosuggestion and what we're feeding into our mind. Step number 12, which is the brain, the broadcasting and receiving station of thought. Final step number 13, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the final step through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. The principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles.
There you have it, all 13 steps and all 13 principles. It's one thing to understand the importance of having persistence, but some may be wondering, how do I develop persistence if I don't have it? And if that's your question, you're in luck, because that is captured in Napoleon Hill's work. And that's part of the conversation we're going to be having today with Ms. Margaret. So, Ms. Ann, what are your thoughts about the importance of knowing how to create persistence if you don't have it already?
All right, Galen, listen. When you think about persistence, and this is for all of us, think about how do you develop persistence? Well, the author tells us that in order to develop persistence, there are 4 simple steps. He says they're simple. After being on this journey for a very long time, and I think Margaret and Galen and many of you would agree, I don't think it's that simple. The habit is what is difficult, I find. Because as we develop very early the habit of not being persistent and being wayward, not so much wayward, but wavering in that desire. But once you can develop a strong habit to persist, it does not call for any kind of education or degrees, if you will, which oftentimes we focus on that. But these are the 4 steps that he says, Galen. First, you must have a definite purpose, a desire that you're backing by a burning desire for its fulfillment. That's the first step. The second step, you must have a definite plan. And you mentioned it earlier, Galen, that plan must be consistently continuous with action. And I'd like to put a pin in that and suggest that even though your plan may not be perfect, just take one step and then another step and then another step. The plan could just be to take a step. He then says that you need to the third step would be close your mind against all negative. The negative that comes from yourself in terms of the negative self-talk, and this is why self-confidence is so important. The negative influences that come from outside of you, whether it's family, friends, co-workers, but also the universe and all of the influences that we have bombarding us from social media, the news, any kind of discouraging influences that will take you off your desire. And then fourth, Finally, you must have a friendly alliance of individuals who are going to encourage you to go through and achieve that desire. So, Galen, those and Margaret, those are the 4 steps to develop persistence. I would say not easy, but then anything worth having and achieving, I don't think is very easy. So let's bring Margaret back. And Margaret, let's talk about your persistence. And one of the areas we talked about before inviting you to come on, you shared with me the fact that you passed the first part of that electrical exam. Can you share that journey and that experience with us?
Absolutely. So for let me just back up a little bit and say, I started out the year with with a plan in mind as to where I wanted to be come December 31st, 2022. And I started off a little slow, a little slow, a little slow. Um, but one of the things that I wanted, and when I went to the annual meeting in January, I wrote on my paper, I want to have my general contracting license and my electrical license by December 31st, 2022. And as the year started, things got a little rocky. And I started to study. Then I wasn't focused enough because I was trying to do 2 things in one time. And then I finally got a hold of myself and said, this is not how this is going to work, Margaret. It's fantastic to have a desire, but if you don't have a plan with the desire, it's not going to work out for you. So I dropped that whole situation. And I decided which of these 2 things was most important to me right now. And the electrical was the most important piece for me. So I put the general contract inside those books down and I started to focus on the electrical. And I have to say, it was a tough road because I had once I shared what I wanted to do with people and people close to me, they thought I was crazy. They says, why do you want to do that at your age? And you should be looking into retirement and you should be doing this and stuff like that. And I got discouraged a little bit and I said, well, maybe you're right. But every time I got to the point of where maybe they were right, I'm so glad for what I call my sister girl, which is my voice in my head that keeps saying, that's not what you said on January 1. That's not what you said in January 1. And I would pick back up and start running again. And I get to another crossroad and I get tired. And she would come right back and says, you didn't say you were going to stop. You didn't say you were going to stop. You said you were going to push through. And last Monday, I scheduled my test. I walked into the test. And when I was in the parking lot to walk into the testing center, I got a little discouraged again. I go, oh my God, nobody passes this exam on the first try. And my sister girl says to me, yeah, but you are. So I took out my phone and I played the song Unstoppable. After the song was over, I got out my car, got into the center, went to the lady, set up my computer. After she set it up, I talked to my father, had a nice conversation with him, and reminded him that he said he would never leave me, nor would he forsake me. So I need him in this test room with me. I finished the exam with 45 minutes to go. It was a 2.5-hour exam, and I got scared. I was like, how can I have finished this thing? How did I just go through this? And I heard my sister girl say, trust yourself. You have come this far. Don't start doubting. You have gone through the process. You've taken the steps. You've aligned everything. Hit the submit button. I hit the submit button. The lady came back in. She took up my paper, took up all my books and stuff. We went back out and she handed me my test results face down. And I thought, oh my God, I didn't make it. I flipped the paper over on my way out with my face hang low. It says, congratulations. I don't know how you guys did not hear me scream Fort Lauderdale down because it was, I first had a desire. And it's very hard to talk about one chapter in the book Think and Grow Rich without, you have to talk about the whole book collectively, because like Miss Ann stated before, you first have to have a desire. What is it that you want out of life? And then and for me, you gotta cut some people loose. You got to cut some things from around you that is always saying, are you sure? You sure you're gonna be able to do this? um how are you going to do it? Are you going to find time to do it? But as long as you have your goal in mind, you will do it. You will do it. um Let me just jump in and say this one thing. I remember December, I believe it was December 31st to be actually correct. Yeah, December 31st. I was at my office and I called Miss Ann. I said, what was that self-confident formula again? She's no, let me backpedal a little bit. Before, as the phone rang, she says to me, you call me so you can get your life together. And I said, oh my God. I said, get off my phone. That's why I'm calling you. I said to her, you are not going to believe I'm calling you to talk about the self-confident formula. Right then and there, we spoke, and I made a personal commitment to her. I said, I'm going to write this self formula for 30 days. Today is August 20th, and I haven't stopped. That's how I'm persistent. I have a commitment to myself, and I'm doing it.
Wow. One of the things, and I want to give this back to Ms. Ann, but one of the things that the author highlights, and so does your story, is that persistence is a state of mind, and therefore persistence can be cultivated. And it's not something that we're either born with or not. Some may have more tendencies towards persistence than others, but it can be cultivated, and it really does stem from what's your desire and how bad do you really, 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 really want this thing that you say that you want it. My question to you, Margaret, and you talked a little bit about this already, is how were you able to understand that those people who were close to you, who were saying, do you really, really want to do this thing? That although they mean you well, they're not speaking into your destiny. How could you determine that those people weren't speaking for sister girl, they were speaking from their own fears?
And that's wonderful that you asked me that, because for me, I had to, as I shared where I wanted to go, and they started dropping all those negative nuggets around me. And I realized the negative nuggets were tying my foot. I had to start saying, wait a minute. So then I had to start now compartmentalizing. You were my friend for this, and you're my friend for that, but you're not my friend in this. So I had to start put them in different categories as to what I share, when I share it, and how I shared it with them.
Love it. I love it. I love it. Mazan, come on into the conversation.
Listen, I'm busy posting and sharing and taking selfies with Margaret and you so we can share it with the world. I think that this is an excellent example of what we just discussed. What Margaret just did was she literally walked through how do you develop persistence without calling it that. The first thing she did was she had a desire, a burning desire. You see, in the beginning, the desire was not a burning desire, it was just a desire. The key word in this first step is burning. And the more people who were discouraging, the more that light fired up inside of her and her other self, sister girl. That was first. The second thing she did was she had a definite plan. She said, listen, I cannot do both of these things at the same time. And for all of the people that I coach, I always say focus on one thing at a time. It doesn't mean you can't not do and you're not capable of doing a lot of different things, but a confused mind makes no decision. Focus on one. And so Margaret decided on her own, my definite plan and the continuous action is to focus on one. She assessed the situation and she said, now I'm going to put these general contracting books aside. That's the second step. The third step that Margaret implemented was she began over time to close her mind to all of the negative, discouraging influences around her. And we have them, and oftentimes we don't realize that they're there, but it's so subliminal, it's so subconscious, Galen and Margaret, that they just, like a gnat, like a fly. And you don't realize that every time you do this or you wave at them, this energy that's taking away from your desire. But the fourth thing she did was when she called me, she began to create a friendly alliance with one or more individuals that began to encourage her through the utilization of our Clarity Mastermind, but to do that self confidence formula, which was what she needed, that boost inside herself to just persist until she succeeded with a spirit of excellence. And so I just want to share that because so many of you are listening and you're saying, well, that doesn't relate to me. But it does, but only when you reach that point of having a definite burning desire, something you want so badly. And Galen hit the nail on the head when we opened the podcast. And he talked about the fact that it needs to be burning and it needs to be continuously pursued. So, with those thoughts in mind, let's just go and just continue to welcome our guests. We have a lot of comments that are shared by the guests. Good morning, Wyman and Diane, Renette. Renette says, what you shared, I'm happy, excuse me, for joining uh, the Southfield. She's joining in from Southfield. Jamel Henderson, good morning again to you. Jason Murray, welcoming everybody. Renette continues to say, Margaret, for 35 years, your family has been in this business, and we want to thank you for that. Think Up with Rose. Margaret, your story is inspiring. Congratulations. And Jason says, a confused mind makes no decision. Thank you. Aida says the same thing. A confused mind makes no decision. So, Margaret, help us understand, if you will, what's next for you in this journey, because I think it's important for our listeners to understand that a burning desire does not just stop at one minor achievement. What's the larger vision and the larger goal that you're aspiring to achieve?
Okay. So again, I'm going back to my I will have my electrical license fully completed before the board and in hand before December 31st. So I'm working on my second part. But once that is all over, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take ownership of that. I'm changing the name of my company from Mr. Wireman to Miss Wireman, because it's personal.
I'm sorry.
Now
I
it's
thought I was
personal.
on mute. I thought I was on mute.
It's now personal for me to take ownership of my accomplishments. Um, but right after that, my big plan is I will be a game changer in the electrical industry as a woman. For me, oftentimes when I walk in a room and I announce myself as, hey, my name is Margaret with Mr. Wireman, and I sit at a table or I stand around the room filled with men, and my the conversation always start off with a test to see if I belong there. And it's only after the conversation gets going and the questions go back and forth, and they notice that I can hold my own, that they even tend to include me in the conversation. I want to change that for women. I want to change that for women so that we're not looked down upon, but we're looked at as equal. It is my desire to grow my business where you can, wherever you go, you can remember, oh, that lady Margaret, that's an electrician. I want that to be a statement. But not only that, I want to be able to empower young ladies that they don't have to be intimidated by the trade, but more so that they can learn a trade, be excited about it, and want to be a part of it with boldness.
Wow. Wow. Margaret, you just hit on something. I see Galen smiling. Let me let you go first, Galen. I'll follow you.
Yeah, I'm just curious. What has made this such an important element of your life? What was the thing that caused you to say, this is the thing that I'm going to pursue, and I really don't care what the obstacles might be, because there are so many other things you could have done, and so many opportunities for you to check out that, hey, I gave it a shot, but there was something that inspired and sparked this persistence in you, and I'm curious as to what that might be.
So let me say this. The worst thing that anyone could ever do to me is mess with my family, my livelihood. And when my husband experienced a stroke, brain stroke, the doctor told me, oh, we could drill a hole in his head, and but if I do that, this is going to be the outcome and stuff like that. And so I looked at it and I said, what do I do from here? Do I go back to corporate America, start working that, or do I push through with what I was working with him on right now? So for me, I'm always thinking in the backdrop of how do I make my family life better? I evaluated everything that was going on at the time. I knew that, at that point in time in my life, I didn't want to work for somebody else. And yes, I could have started a simple company, whatever, but it wasn't challenging enough. I wanted something that challenged me. I wanted something that, every day that I got up, I had a new, I had to look at something new. I had to look at what was new, how I was going to fit in this space. So the challenge for me became a desire that I knew that I had to push. But then as I got more and more, my desire got stronger to be better in the industry, to be better at what I did, to know more about what was going on. So I kept pushing and pushing and pushing until I finally it was just like I walked right through the light and says, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. And in order for me to do this, here are some things that I need to put in place. And, like I stated earlier, when people started to say, oh, you shouldn't and you couldn't and all the stuff that they said, what they didn't realize was they were actually helping me, because I hate it when people tell me I can't.
Mm, I love it. I love it. I'll tell you one of the things that I really like about your story is the fact that you've made decisions on how to live your life and how to succeed on purpose. Any of us can be successful accidentally, right? If we just happen to need gas and we say, "Hey, I've got an extra couple extra bucks. Give me a lottery ticket," and you scratch it and you win. Well, you succeeded accidentally, but you've taken the steps to succeed on purpose. And I just really, really admire that commitment to creating the world and the life that you want to have. Ms. Ann, this is sounding a lot like your story.
Well, I tell you what, Margaret, you reminded all of us what the book shares. In order to have persistence, and thank you for that, Galen. In order to have persistence, the author says you must go back to the desire principle, and you must go back to the 6 steps. I call them the 6 keys in my McNeil factor system. And the 6 keys are the 6 steps to turn your desire into riches starts with number 1. And I want to remind all of our listeners, number 1, you must fix in your mind the exact amount of money you desire. See, that's what Margaret is doing. That's what she has done. She has an amount of money in her mind. We're going to come back to you, Margaret. And if you don't mind sharing that, because we've talked about this as a part of our coaching. Number 1, what's the number? And oftentimes people say, oh, well, I don't want any money. Oh, I want material things. But how are you going to do it without money? Make the money not for the money, but who you must become in the process. Can I say that again, somebody? Become a millionaire, not for the millions, but for the person you must become. The second step, the author says that you must determine exactly what you're going to give in return for the money. That's step number 2 in the desired principle. What are you going to give? It must be some kind of product or service you're going to sell. People tell me, oh, I'm just going to volunteer. Well, volunteers don't get paid for the simple fact that you're volunteering. So how are you going to make money to provide for yourself and your loved one and your families? Exact amount of money, determine exactly what you're going to give. Margaret said, I'm going to become an electrical contractor license, and that's the product and service I'm going to provide. The third step, Margaret determined the exact date. She gave us a date. She said by December 31st, 2022. December was her date. The fourth step, the author said you must have a plan to carry out your desire at once. Start right where you are. That's what Margaret did. The beginning of the year, she set the goal. She said, I'm going to do this. She waned in the beginning, but then she picked up that steam by pouring some gasoline on that desire. Number 5, he says you must have a statement. We call it an affirmation statement. Number four, create the plan. Number 5, create the statement. And that statement becomes your affirmation. And then number 6, you're going to recite that statement twice a day, once upon arising in the morning and once before you retire at night. And those are the 6 steps. How much, doing what, by when, with the plan, and affirmation, and recite it twice a day. So if you're listening to this and live or in the future, and you're wondering how do you develop desire, go back to how much money do you want? And that will fuel your persistence. So Margaret, if we can have you share with us, we're going to go quickly to our conversation about the annual meeting. And I know you were participating in our annual meeting. Actually, you just mentioned it when you talked about the commitment you made. But can you share with our audience a little about what was different in this annual meeting when someone special, very, very special to you, who decided to come off the sidelines and get into the game? Can you share that story?
Absolutely. So for me, I've gone to the annual meeting year after year after year, and each time I get back, I'm always buzzing around the house about what my goals are and what my plans for the year is, and all these different buzzwords that I use around the house. And my husband always sit there and he watches me, and then he's always say, every time you go and you come back, you're all hyped up and you're doing this and you're moving stuff around and things like that. So this past year, January, I guess out of curiosity, he decided to come to figure out what it is that I do when I go Friday night, Saturday, all day. He wanted to know what it is that I did. So he decided to show up. And I think he got bit because he got back with the same buzzwords, the same excitement, the same wanting change, wanting plans, putting goals in place that I came back with. So now it is awesome, awesome, because my best friend is now my partner in my masterminding. And it is always great when two people that walk together, sleep together, talk together, eat together are on the same page, doing the same thing, having the same desire, supporting each other. So um, if you're married, you have family, please show up together at the annual meeting, because when you're in the same household and you're able to come together at the table, and especially when one can realize, oh, that's what she's doing. She's putting a plan. She has a desire. She's persistent. She's doing all this stuff. It's a fantastic, fantastic feeling.
Wow, wow, wow. I'm looking in the chat as it's blowing up. Monica Long says, Margaret, I love your white hot desire and inspiring out and inspired thinking outside of the box. Wyman says, Margaret, what an inspiration. You're an example of someone who is indeed the captain of your ship, who is sailing full speed towards the success you have envisioned. Doretha goes on to talk about the annual meeting. We'll do that for you. It inspires you to step up your game and making your desires come true. Good morning, Sharice DeBose, everybody. Thank you so very much for these wonderful, wonderful, wonderful words of encouragement. We're going to put on the screen the details about our annual meeting. For those of you that's listening in, please go to Think and Grow Rich International Masterminders.com, and you can click the link. The event is going to take place in Boca Raton, January 6th and 7th, 2023. We'll be at the Embassy Suites there on Yamato Road, but we want to encourage you, please go ahead and register. Monica Long shared with me this week that she's already planning to come, and somebody special is coming with her. I was sharing before the podcast started. On the same day, Monica told me that I got a call from 3 different people that live out of the state who are already getting their tickets in their hotel and they're registering. And so when you live right here in the state of Florida, and some of you live right there in Broward, what is your desire? Because this may not be for you. And I would encourage you. And I shared with someone, the older I get, and that's why I let this hair turn all white, because I want it to be understood. I'm not begging, I'm not pleading, and I'm not really asking anymore, because this is not for everybody. And I shared with some people that oftentimes we want a large crowd. I want to blow people out quickly, because when you blow people out quickly who are waning in their desire, they relieve you from the stress and pressure of trying to prove something to them. I'm over that. I'm done with that. Galen and I were talking before the podcast started, and I said, Galen, at the end of the day, none of us are really special. We're all the same. It's the desire, and that burning desire that differentiates us, if you will. But we're all the same. No big I, no little you. But if you don't have a desire, I would tell you right now, don't come. No, don't even show up, because this is not for you yet. If you have a small desire, we welcome you. No desire, catch us next year. So January 6th and 7th, 2023, you can go to the website, International Masterminders with an S. Victoria, if you can put that link in the chat, please, for all of our listeners, internationalmasterminders.com, and you can register to join us. We look forward to seeing you, and also consider bringing your family. I'll mention this. Misty Campbell actually shared with me. She said, listen, I got my ticket coming from Chicago. I've already registered. I'm bringing my children. And I shared this with her, and we'll put this in the chat. Every Sunday at 3:30 Eastern Time, our youth host a Think and Grow Rich mastermind for 30 minutes, our children. Her daughter, I shared with her, has been the most consistent child that shows up every single week. Yes. And it has been a phenomenal opportunity to watch this child grow over the last 3 years that she has been coming. And we really want to encourage all of you that have family, like her Margaret talked about her husband, but many of us have family. Go to Eventbrite and you can search Think and Grow Rich Youth Family Accountability Mastermind and allow your children to join us. It's only 30 minutes every Sunday. Yes, 52 weeks. I'm there and other parents are there helping the children, but they host their own mastermind meeting. They are reading this book, an average of 2 pages per week. And by the end of the year, they've finished the book, Think and Grow Rich. But they discuss the book. They have an affirmation statement. They read the self-confidence formula. Yes, they do open with prayer of their own. And so when you think about a child that can do that, I was sharing earlier that uh, our granddaughter, she started reading at 3. She's on the group with everybody else. She's 5 now. She's reading. Yes, she's reading Think and Grow Rich. But also I shared she's been working with me for the summer. And if they can do all of this other stuff, these children, yes, they can do this too. So imagine in your family, extended family, these children, whether they're your children or not, imagine exposing them to this philosophy at a very, very, very early age. When these influences come toward them, they have something so deeply seated and rooted in them. One of my other favorite books that's on this shelf behind me that says, train up a child the way they should go. It didn't say they're not going to go astray, but it says when they grow older. We all did it, but something inside of us just pulls us back to the word. And oftentimes we think of the word, only word we can think of as the word of God, but there's so many words that cement that word in us. And so I just want to thank you, Margaret, for being willing to do the work. And thank you, Galen, for being willing to get up every Saturday morning Central Time and sit at the, like it's ungodly hour to be here. And I want all of you to know we're here to serve you. So in serving you, we want to share with you who we are and what we do. So we're going to start with Galen, then we go to Margaret, and I'll wrap up, yes, with my video. And of course, Margaret is in it. So Galen, if you can share as we wrap up, please. And any
Yes.
ahas from Margaret. Thank you.
So this has been another incredible conversation, but I want to start with a comment directly to our audience. I mean, many of you join us each week, each Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you hear us talk about some principle of thinking grow rich. And my question to you is, are you living your life on purpose? Are you living your life on purpose in pursuit of this thing that you believe you were put here on this planet to do? And if you're not, why not? Are you just letting things come and taking advantage of things that as they might come? What is it going to take for you to live your life on purpose? This is Margaret did. This book outlines the process for how to live your life on purpose. And that's why we come every week to share this with you. We're committed to this process, and we're hoping that you're committed to it as well. My name is Galen Bingham. I'm the leadership strategist. There are so many ways to get a hold of me. I've got a podcast I'm having a lot of fun with called Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership. Would definitely love for you to subscribe to that. But I've got something new that I'm partnering with Dr. Peter James on. It's called IF Collective, Intentional Future Collective, where we are going to invest in up to 12 participants over 10 weeks We're going to leverage the principles of Think and Grow Rich, but we're going to leverage our skills and our passions as executive coaches to help you achieve a specific thing that you say is really, really important to you. So we're going to drop that link in the chat. But if you could just really decide that this is the time that you're going to be intentional about creating your future, that you want to do the specific things that you know that you need to do in order to create the life that you always talk about. The Intentional Future Collective is the place to go. So check out that link and look forward to seeing you every Saturday.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Galen. And let's please bring that link up to the screen so everybody can see it, so we can support the two of them, because they come on every week, month after month, year after year, to support all of us. So let's consider that, and also comment and like and share their podcast and their mastermind that they're starting. Margaret, thank you so much. Wow. And I know this was a little struggle for you because you like to be incognito, but you are stepping into another realm of greatness because, like Les Brown says, there is greatness in you. And we want to encourage every single one of our guests that's listening that there is greatness in every single one of you. For the mere fact that you showed up, you thought you came to support Margaret, but you came to be supported by Margaret. And Margaret, if you can share with us how the listeners can reach you, and if you have anything special you're doing that you want support.
Um, First, I want to say I want to encourage each and everyone that is on the line that never let someone talk your desire down. Never getting a car with doubt. If you have a desire and you're persistent, I suggest you change rides. Get off the car, get in a train. Never let someone talk you down from saying, "Oh, but you're at such and such an age. Are you really want to do this?" No, age is just a number. All you have to do, it doesn't matter when you start, you just have to get started. I don't let anybody step into my space now that is not an encourager. I don't hang around with anybody that when I walk into a room is not excited to see me. Because if they're not excited to see me, that means that they're not going to encourage me. Those are the things that I'm building my life on right now. I only want to surround myself with people that I can pour into, that's going to pour right back with me. That's not to say I'm selfish and I don't want to help other people, but sometimes you have to go up by yourself and then throw down a rope to help somebody up. Those are the principles that I'm living now, that I have gotten into the book and several other books that has helped me along the way. If I can be an encouragement to anyone, please reach out to me on link. I'm on LinkedIn, just my name, and I'm on Facebook. But again, I want to encourage you, just get started.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Margaret. And like she said, you can reach out to her. Her name is spelled Margaret, Margaret, and last name is spelled Anglin, because we have many people who will be listening to this podcast in the future, and we want to make sure that they're able to find you. Galen's name is spelled GalenBingham. Want to make sure you can find him. And even though Dr. James is not here, it is Peter A. James, Dr. Peter A. James. And so we want to continue to send the love and encouragement to all of our participants, the hosts and co-hosts, and our guests. And if you're interested in participating in this podcast, you can go to internationalmasterminders.com, the website, and send us a message and let us know that you're interested in being a guest on this podcast. That is International Masterminders with an S.com. International Masterminders, yes, with an S, and let us hear from you and let us know you are interested in this podcast. We talked about the 6 keys. If you're interested in receiving those, you can text the word "and," that's ANN, in your text chat. Text 55678. Text that number 55678. And in the chat, put the word "and," ANN, and we will send you a copy of those 6 keys. We also host a Think and Grow Rich Mastermind beta test. And we'll pull that link up because it's very important for those of you that's interested in learning how to mastermind. What are some of the good, the bad, and the ugly about masterminding? What are some of the best practices? So if you go to International Masterminders with an s.com/group mastermind, on a monthly basis, we meet on the second Tuesday at 9 a.m. And it has been phenomenal. This last meeting we had in the month of August, we had over 50 people join us from all over the world. And it has just been growing because many people mastermind, but they don't know how do you keep your group together. What are some best practices? Where can I go that does not charge me an arm and a leg to learn how? Well, finally, I want to just thank all of you. I was going to play the video to end. I think I'll do that anyway. Please remember to come back next week. We have another special guest. Yes, a very, very special guest. You don't want to miss this. Next week, same place, same time. And remember to subscribe. If you have not subscribed, please do so. And yes, click the bell and subscribe. But right now we're going to wrap up and close with a video from our retreat that basically talks about how do you take your life and your business to another level. If you're interested in taking the burning desire and really having a way to drill down on that desire with me. Yes, the Master Builder. And now it is time for that short video, and we will end with that video. And afterwards, we will see you next week, same place, same time. Thank you. My why really is the fact that you really can think and grow rich with a spirit of excellence, in the spirit of service to God. I came from absolutely nothing. So there's no excuse about why I cannot help literally millions of people, but I have to start with one, and that one is myself.
Miss Anne, such a gift. The way that you have curated this space for people to be safe, to be seen, to be heard, to be validated, to be encouraged, to be lifted up in a way that allows them to see beyond what they may have ever even dreamt to be possible, is special. It's a blessing, it's a gift, and it's transformative.
Opening my eyes to what it is I need to do, how to do what I need to do, and sharing your life experiences so that I don't make the mistakes.
You need to surround yourself with individuals that see something in you that you can't see. Because once they see that, then they will keep bugging you because they know better is in there. And that's what she has done for me. She saw my better when I couldn't even see it.